All right, folks, we are back, and probably about 2 hours it took me to generate out the images. I would say that in some areas it was easier, and other parts it was harder. So if we go over to here, obviously I'm not going to show all the generation here, but I mean, this one I had a really hard time getting the top of the head and the bottom, so that took a lot of attempts. This one was really hard because it kept generating out them sitting with like this white background that didn't cut out very well. You can see they're from Canada. I was trying to put Canada everywhere on them as it was a little bit too much. This one was hard. This was the only one where I could get a Spanish person that was standing looking at the screen. They're still not kind of looking at us. And you can see the lighting's kind of an issue. So one thing I realized is like having lighting directions. I fed this all to Grok, and Grok just does not listen to the commands. It still does a good job. This one turned out really well, but I realized it was like trying to put a woman in the bottom, so I had to be specific, tell it to be a man. This one actually had a lot of good generations out. There's one where like it was at with a book at a table, but I didn't know how to incorporate that, so I kind of gave that one up here. This one here, it's supposed to have like clips in the hair. I didn't tell it to do that. I mean, it generated out that stuff there. So this is a woman from South Korea in her 20s. It's hard to say. She looks like she's a bit younger than that, but it was generating out kids first because of the aesthetic. And so I told it to go older, and it made people that were way older. I probably still have some of the ones around here. I'm not sure if they're still here. No, but yeah, this one is like supposed to have a bun in their hair, I guess, but like they look a little bit cross-eyed there, and I never noticed. I don't really see a bun there, but that's totally fine. But the some of the generations out for this one was quite funny. But this one here, you can see like this is the only time I got an image where it's like boom, all I had to do was grab it and remove the background. So that was really lucky. And then our original one here. And so there's inconsistencies, and mostly it has to do with lighting. But I would say the photos are still pretty good. But I had to do a lot of touch up for scenes. We got an apartment, we got a cafe, we got a classroom, we got the corner store, we got a post office. I don't know what a Japanese post office looks like, but we'll assume that's what it looks like. And I would say that they're fine. Like, there's some distortions and stuff like that, but I think it doesn't really matter. Well, look, there's chairs outside, right? But maybe those are maybe that's the outdoor classroom, and so we can fix those. I don't really care. I think it's good enough for this, and so we are now ready to do our coding implementation. So I guess what we need is we need some kind of narrative to drive this, right? And so the idea is that we have these scenes, these areas, and we need to figure out what's going to make this an immersive game, right? So usually visual novels have a story arc that you go through. They don't really give you flexibility to move around where you want to go. I mean, there are things like called daily life simulators where they do let you go places and do things, and it depends if we want to move from a visual novel to a daily life simulator. A daily life simulator would actually be really, really good because then you'd have repetition of things that you're doing. So that would be really good for immersion. I don't know if we could really incorporate that because we don't have enough assets per se. Like there has to be, I guess, a lot more going on. Not necessarily, but more maybe in within the shots and expressions of folks. Something we could do is try to, have more face expressions. That's something I didn't really try. Like again, it's just because I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but we could go here and let's just see if we can do this and say like change face to be angry. Okay. Like, I don't know what we'll get, but normally when it swaps out faces, it really distorts them in my prior experience. So we'll try it here, but I really don't think that it's going to do a good job. But we might as well try and see what happens here. That's weird. Um, you know what I mean? Like, does this still look like the same person? We go here and we say, um, like maybe. We'd have to go here and try again, generate again. Maybe we just generate till we get one that works. But this could be very tedious, and I'm not really ready to prepare to put that kind of energy into this. I think, again, I would rather do this locally with Comfy UI. But right now, we're just trying to see. We're not getting any face changes now. Oh, I got to keep this here, so we got to see. And so you know what I mean? Like literally the facial structures. It's weird that we can tell, but you can tell that's not the same face. The makeup's changed. The eye color is changed. So this again is where, and they give them an earring for some reason. This is where that'd be too hard. Now, of course, in Photoshop, we do have some options in here. Again, if you don't have Photoshop, just work with what you got. You know what I'm saying here. And they have this thing called Liquify. I'm really good at Photoshop, if people didn't know that. And so we can change the expressions a little bit here. Like we can do this and like change the phase shift by stretching things out. We can also move them around a little bit. But we're not going to be able to make them smile or angry or stuff like this. So this is not going to work really well for us, which is fine. We would have to go through many iterations or find another piece of software to do that. But the point is that we are, for the most part, done with Photoshop for now. I'm going to close out Photoshop as it does take up my resources. No, no, no. Yes. We do want to save that. I don't want to lose that. And so the next thing is like, oh, I really want to do a daily simulator. Now that I thought about it, that's like so smart for immersion. That would be really, really, really good. But we don't have the time. So I think what we need to do is kind of define the story. So we'll go back over to here. We're not coding yet. We're just doing the story. So gameplay mechanics, choice system, branching narrative, inventory system, no. Stats and skills, no. Mini games, no. I mean, that'd be fun, but no. We need, I mean, there is obviously like some UIs here, but I guess the thought is like, okay, so we're going to stick with Claude 3.7 thinking. Okay, so now we need to think about the story arc and how it's going to be useful for language learning. Obviously, so can you give me an idea based on the characters we have and settings we have for a story arc? Remember, we need branches in the story. Okay, so let's see what we get. Develop a story language arc. So we'll see what it does here. Here it's going, it's listing out the folks here. So based on the characters and setting you develop, here's a comprehensive story arc with narratives. I mean, it doesn't get all the details of the characters, so that'd be very interesting. The main story, finding your voice in Japan. Ooh. The player takes the role of a foreign student, takes the role of it, who has just arrived in Japan. They must navigate daily life, building relationships, overcome cultural challenges while improving their Japanese skills. Oh. Each character interaction teaches specific vocabulary grammar. Dialogue choices reflect the player's current language level. Conversations with characters adapt to be selected difficulty. Lower levels include more English and native and stuff like that. Main character, language school, core challenge, prepping for the JLPT. That is something that I am doing. So we got that. Focusing on reading, writing, focus on speaking and spelling, more interactions. Oh, that's interesting. Then we have here traditional culture path, more interactions with Watanabe Akiko. Modern cultural path, more interactions with Yuki. Oh, that's kind of cool. Cultural immersion, daily life. It sounds like I want all of this, but like I don't see how we could get all this, right? Independent living, more interactions with Suzuki Kenji. Social interactions, more interactions with Alex, right? And here, you might want to say like, I don't know. Each character relation must have multiple branches, conversation choices, side quests. So now we have the weekly story arc. So week 1. And now it's not a daily simulator, but they are specifying time, right? So meet roommate Alex and teacher Yamato. Choose initial learning, focus, academic, cultural, or daily life. The only problem is like, I don't think we can have people in the same room because right now, well, maybe we can, but they might be unusual to move them to other places. But I guess we can do that even though that doesn't really work because they might overlap, right? So that's kind of a little bit of an issue that we have here. Regulars less with Yamato. So I would just say that one thing you need to consider is we can't have more than one person in a conversation because the graphics will overlap. So we simply have to make it one-on-one interactions. And interactions between characters can only work when they are talking about someone not to another character, other than the main character, the main player. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll adjust that there. But I like what it has here. Okay, so now it's making some adjustments here. Players choose which characters to interact with at a specific decision points. I don't know. So here it says revise. So finding your voice in Japan, all scenes feature only one player and only one player feature only the player and one other character. Characters will reference other characters in dialogue. Scene transitions will be used to switch between character interactions. Okay, so each character has their own storyline that progresses independently. Players choose the character to interact with. I don't think they choose because it's each location has a primary character associated with it. Players travel between locations, interact with different characters. Time of day system. So it is getting a little bit too advanced here. So I'll have to make some changes. So sorry, the visual novels are linear, right? So they don't get to choose who they talk to unless it's a story branch. So all stories have to flow one from another. Okay. Okay, so we'll go up here. And so now we're starting to see this. I'm going to go back over to our visual tech spec. And so now what we're seeing is characters. We have scene settings. I guess these are more like scenes. Settings. These are basically scenes. Okay, and then we have up here. We'll put this in here like this. The core story framework. So we have here linear progression through scenes. Each scene features one character with one player. Key decision points that lead to specific branches. All interactions flow naturally one to the next. Okay, so we'll continue on here on the right-hand side. So chapter 1, arrival at airport. Okay, so look, there is no airport graphic. So you have to limit the story to the scenes, right? So like start the player already in Japan. Like, so this is something that it needs to understand, right? And they have branching. Only 2-3 major points in the entire story. Each branch leads to a distinct sequence of scenes. Players cannot jump between branches once the choice has been made. Each player emphasizes different aspects of the language learning. And that's something that we can do. So that's going to revise the story. I didn't realize it was writing it right in here. Has it been doing that this entire time? Okay. Can we place the story structure in its own MD doc? Just because I don't want it to make a mess of this one. So there's so much that can be going on here. So we'll just separate it out, right? The reasoning seems fine. Again, is it better than Claude 3.7? It's hard to say. Anyway, we'll give it a moment here. All right, so it's extracted it out into this other file here. It says enhance the story, added details, outlines, entire visual novel, updated the specs. Separation makes the technical specification a bit cleaner. It'd be nice to like visualize what it actually looks like, the actual the flow of the story. But we'll take a look here. We'll say it moved it into here, which is fine, I guess. I mean, I would have rather just had it in here. Complete story is over here, and then it repeats it again. I guess it's fine if it's repeated. So we have player wakes up in the apartment, welcomes to Alex welcomes to Japan. Alex gives him basic information about the neighborhood and language. Player arrives at the language school, meets Yamato. Sensei. First basic Japanese lesson with Yamato. Yamato assigns homework, visits the post office, uh, visits the post office, uh, post office to mail a form. Visiting to post office, meeting uh, Ta- Tanaka Hiroshi Hiroshi Hiroshi. I don't know why I have such a hard time with Hiroshi. Language challenge with forms. Return to apartment. Alex suggests visiting the cafe for practice. Visit visit the cafe. Meeting Nak, Nakumura Yuki. How you respond to Yuki's questions about what you want to focus on: academic, study path, cultural path, or practical path. I guess this is like a place where you can have branching, which is interesting. Then we have branch A. So again, I'm not sure if I like these branches, but because like I guess the question is like, well, what is it the outcome that you want in the story, right? Is it I don't know. Yuki introduces you to Carlos at the cafe. Advanced lesson with Yamato Sensei. Your approach to language learning. One thing that I think might be interesting is like since we have this stuff, it'd be nice if there was a way for the LLM to produce, um, if it like knew like how to do that, and so we could focus on each of the stories. But right now we're just hard coding everything. I'm gonna pause and think about this for a second. All right, so even though I'm not really a huge fan of the branching of this stuff, which is fine, I'm trying to think more like imagine I make it static and then I want to move it later so it's dynamically generated so that an LLM can drive each scene. Because like in my MUD, it's a lot. I guess it's generated as well, and you have a situation that needs to be accomplished. But in these situations here, we are trying to achieve some kind of repetition or goal. And so, like, if I go to the school, I want to use school vocabulary. I want things to be school focused. I want to know what the common things you say or stuff like that. But I think what we need is we need to figure out like what's going to drive this here. So I'm trying to talk about like the engine or like the structure of it. So, what is it that we want? Like this, like we haven't coded the game yet, right? So we need a story branching system. So I guess my thought is like we have to specify, um, it's like the story. Here's the setting over here, which is synopsis. This is I feel like this is a technical implementation. I'm going to take this and bring this all the way down here, and we'll call this text specs. We'll go here. It's not really text specs, but we'll go bring it down here anyway. And so I'm going to go here, and we're going to say like story story branching system. Okay, so defines the logic via JSON file for story branching. Okay, so here, I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, right here, we'll say, was it L or K? Over here. So I'm trying to figure out how to store the story, the story as a data structure in JSON, right? I would think that each scene is its own object, own isolate JSON object. Okay, but anyway, we'll see what it comes up with here. I'm not sure where that went. It kind of like vanished. Where'd the code go? I didn't delete it, that's for sure. It literally just ripped my code out. What the heck? So, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. It's a little bit too much. So I just want to see a little bit here. So we say main story structure. So here we have, I mean, do we even need to use Gemini? I'm just going to turn the whole thing up. We have finding your voice in Japan. First scene, scene one, scenes. Scene one, scene two, characters, Alex, Yamato, location. Does this make sense? Scene one. So we have an ID for the scene. We have the title, the location, the character ID. We don't need the background image if we have the location, right? And so here we're taking a look here and saying, we have Alex. Hey there, welcome to Japan. I'm Alex, your roommate. Nice to meet you. I'm excited to be here. Let me show you around your apartment. And this is vocabulary. Okay, how is this useful? Branch point structure. Let's just focus on the first scene JSON structure file, so we can tell if the scene is useful for language learning. Okay? That's all I wanted to focus on right now. And I'm going to go back, and it's really fortunate it like wiped out some of my code there, but I'll go back to over the story structure here. Player wakes up in the apartment, scene 2, Alex gives basic information about the school. So we'll go here. We'll give it a moment here to generate. We'll see what comes up. All right, let's take a look at the structure JSON. Now, I don't need it to produce JSON. I mean, we're just looking at as an example. So basic scene information, title, description, first day in Japan, meeting your Alex roommate, location, character details, language difficulty beginner. We don't need that information. Enhanced dialogue system. So Alex. Oh, you're up in the morning, language version. Alex happy, Alex greeting. And it has an audio file. But which is it? Is it going to be in English or Japanese, right? So player response options. Good morning, you must be Alex. Good morning, you must be Alex. So is everyone always speaking in Japanese? I mean, that's fine if they are, right? It'd probably be easier to do that, because if we didn't do that, I don't know how else this would work, right? Because when we have, I'm not saying we need audio, but if we want to have like the audio output to it and we bring that stuff in, we're going to have a hard time if we're doing English and Japanese, because it's very hard to mix someone that speaks English and Japanese. Now, ChatGPT can do it, but I've never seen any other models that are able to do that. Comprehensive language learning section, vocabulary items, grammar patterns, cultural notes. No, like all of this is a mess. Like really all there is Japanese sentence, English translation, right? So, maybe, then, right? Like, it's just, they're making a huge mess out of this. Yeah, it's a simple game. We keep telling it this here. I could come up with it myself, and it might be actually faster to do that, but we'll see what happens here. Okay, so here we have speaker, narrator, text, welcome to your new apartment. Next scene choices. Okay, so I'm going to help it out here. It's having a really hard time figuring out the structure. And so we'll go over to this. Back over to here. I hope it doesn't blow it away again. That was really frustrating last time. We'll go, I guess we could just put it back over here, I guess, for now. And we'll just say story data structure example. So here we have a scene, right? And a scene, I mean, first of all, there's a scene. And then we have location ID, and then character ID. There we go. We don't need these two. These don't do anything. Okay, so this is going to describe the image, like the image for the background. This one's going to describe the character, right? Now, the next thing is we go into the dialogue. That's a good idea. The only thing is that that's an array, which is kind of a problem because we don't necessarily know what's transitioning to what. So we'll have to go here. And now we have a dialogue of this. And so this will have probably its own ID, right? Because if we don't do that, I'm not sure how that would work. And so here we would just say, right, wake up. And now we're kind of like going through and showing this example here. And so we have English, Japanese. Okay, that's not Japanese. There we go. There you go. Now it knows what I want. Okay. Here we have Anata wa atarashi apato ni. So you, apartment, you, new apartment. Ni ori. I'm not sure what ori is. We have, I mean, it looks like ashita, but it's like, I guess the morning, like asaheo, something, window, mado no nakio, whatever. So you wake up in your new apartment. Yeah, that's correct. Ori, maybe ori is wake up in a short form. That's not normally what I would see here. It doesn't mention Japan in here at all, which is fine. The morning sunlight, so here's morning. We have bright light through the window. And then here, it's whatever. So kind of matches. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of what we're looking at right now. So we have the speaker, and this is player, right? Right, because that's what it is. And the next thing might be Alex. But the thing is, like, how do we know where it transitions to next, right? Like, are there any choices? So here we'll have choices, right? There's no choices. Because if there was something, then we have to go to the next step, right? That's the thing that's really important. I think it'd be kind of cool if if there's like the next arrow, that's one thing, but we'll go here and we'll put in Alex. So what we have, Ohio Okita. So, yeah, good morning, you're up, right? So that's what we have here. The only thing is that then we will want some choices in here. So here, going to here, yep. And I'm not sure why it keeps doing text. It really wants to do text, eh? So I'll have English, Japanese. There's no beginner level stuff here, right? And then I'm just going to put ... to imply that there are more choices, right? And so the idea is that based on your choice, that might trigger a step, right? We might say next, and this would be next ID. That's this way, 002, right? Okay, and then up here, there is no choices. So if there's no choices, like, what do you do for that transition, right? Like, if there are no choices, I guess you just, right? If we'll go here, if there are no choices, it's just going to go next to the next thing. But how does it know where to go next, right? Default next ID, 001, right? So maybe that kind of helps, right? So now we have a bit of a transition, right? The other thing is that, we're choosing that all this can do is branch. If it's just next ID, and these are like specifically like dialogue branch, so it'd be like whatever. But I guess the question is like, are there things that could be additive or removed that would change the calculation or score of something? So I'm not sure, like, because right now, if you want a branch to occur in the story to go to a different scene, we'd have to do some extra logic to do that. And so this is the most bare bones thing that we can do here. So this is, I think, a good structure for a scene. And so this is an example of scenes. And so, you know, we'll go here and I kind of prefer if these scenes were all separate because then we could like work through them a little bit easier maybe. And then that's this way, this would be a lot easier. So we'll go here and I'll make a new folder. It should have been called data here. It's not letting me change it. And so I'm gonna go here and make a new folder called, here we have characters and scenes. And I'll go here and just call this assets. Let me move this here. Can I move it? Move, move, move. Yes, I can. I'm gonna make another folder in here. This is gonna be called story, right? So this will be story or scenes, I suppose. This is an example of a story scene JSON format that is stored in the outputs, assets, outputs, scenes directory. Okay. And so now it knows this is the structure that we want. Now we wanted this to write the story. Like again, we haven't done any coding, so again, I still want to use Gemini at some point here. But now we have this. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to say, look, I helped figure out a structure that I want. You can read story structure to see the structure and where to output the files. Can you create the first scene and place it? Okay, so now it should not muck with my stuff. It's going to actually place this into here. Obviously, these can be named whatever we want, but we'll let that go ahead and work through it, okay? All right, so down below here it says the file's now here, okay? And we have information here. Let's go into the scene and let's take a look and see what it looks like. So we have, okay, we wake up, Ohio, Okitandane. It's a little bit different from before. That's fine. Okitandane. I think that's kind of a softener here. Probably nobody cares. And so here, there's no Japanese. I guess the player has to choose. Why is it not doing that, right? So I noticed here when you generate it out that 002, the JP in English is blank, but the choices are supposed to be in 001 because it's a response. All choices are from perspective of the player, right? So I think it doesn't understand that because here it would literally end up displaying nothing, right, to the thing, and that would be a problem. And so we can see we have some options here. Another thing we might want to have is like if we had a response, we might want an immediate response for it to transition back to it because then you don't have to create all these things separate out here. But we'll think about this. All right, we'll come back here. So, you know, first of all, there is no narrator. It's always the player talking to themselves, to someone, or to themselves as inner thoughts. I don't know why you added vocab to the data structure. Okay, you know, can you update our tech doc so you better understand? So like, I don't know why it's doing that, right? So like, we'll go there and we'll let it fix it. But this is what I mean where I talk about Claude 3.7 being a little bit too aggressive. But I don't know if it would actually go back and fix this information here where it's like progressions through scenes. So, you know, a few things we need to note here. So some notes, you know, considerations. We'll go down here. I'm not sure how it would know that anywhere, but like player dial, or so we'll go here and just say speaker is always the player or another character. There is no narrator. The player is talking. The player's inner monologue would act as narration. When needed. Okay. No, there is always an explicit next scene ID. So if there is no choices, then the default next ID will transition to the next scene. Okay. Choices are always from the perspective of the player. So go back into here. So we have this default next ID, choices, good morning, nice to meet you. That's right, thanks for having me. Your Japanese is pretty good for after only 2 years. So we have ni nenkan de nihongo ga jouzu ni natta desho. Looks kind of like cry to me. Natta, but so far good. So here, I made some coffee. Would you like some? Coffee sounds great. What time is it now? It's about this time. Some of these sentences are a little bit longer than I expected. Okay, so Alex hands you a coffee after chatting a bit more. You get ready for school, right? So this is the initial scene, which is great. I would say this is fine. One thing I'd probably might do is have some nested choices, because sometimes you might want someone to like transition always to the next scene, but the idea is that there is an immediate response, right? So we'll worry about that as well. We can talk about it over here, but like choices are always from the perspective of the player. And so maybe here, you know, we might have next ID over here. I might go and just give an example of something else down here. So we might go down here. You know, there is a variation of choices. You know, sometimes you want to have a response for a specific choice, but the choice always leads to the next default, to the next default. So there is a nested response example, and so we'll go here, and you know, we got to make another scene, so we'll go here and go down. It's got to start with a scene, right? So this has got to be ID. It's not doing the scene here. Scene. So we'll go scene 002. And then we have this. Alex, Ohio, good morning. And so now we want our choices, right? And here it says next ID here, but it's actually called default next ID. It doesn't know what it's doing. So say default. I'm not sure why it has, no, that's correct. That's correct. Okay, good. So we have default next, but we'll go choices here. Right, and so I'm going to go here. I guess it's square, right? And so in this case, what we'll do, we'll just say response. And in here, it's just going to be a single response. It's not going to be a bunch of stuff. Speaker. I mean, this doesn't make sense because it wouldn't be this, but like, we'll go here and can we update this to make sense? The response nested in the choices don't make sense because, okay, let's see if it can fix that. Hopefully it doesn't mess up my structure. I mean, we could always just say undo. But now we're starting to get the structure of what we want, right? And so then we have that. We need to make the scene show up. And then once we have our scene, then it's really just driving the rest there. So here I'm just going to, I wanted to see if the sentence makes more sense. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go here and look at this choice. So we have Ohayou gozaimasu, Ohayou gozaimasu, Ari, I guess it's like Alexandes. And so I'm just going to accept this because I can't really see what I'm looking at here. But here it says, Alex, oh, you're up. Good morning. Choices. Good morning. You must be Alex. That's right. I'm Alex. Did you sleep well? So here, it can't end like that. Otherwise, it's going to go somewhere, right? And that's kind of a problem. So we can do this like this. Right? And so otherwise, we're going to end up with too much nesting, right? And I mean, we could keep doing nesting if we really wanted to. If we wanted a complex structure, but we might want to keep flattening out so it makes it a little bit easier. But here, anyway, we have good morning. You must be Alex. That's right. And so these would naturally transition to this default ID based on this scene. So sometimes you want to have a response for a specific choice, but the choice always leads to the next default ID. So there is a nested response, okay? Would it be useful to have that immediate response and go somewhere else? Probably doesn't really matter, as that would branch off to something else. The only thing that we don't see here at the end is where does it go after at the end of the scene? So how do we know the conclusion of a scene? And so maybe here we would have something like ... and then we go, 0, 3, 0. I'm not sure what the number would be here. It can be whatever we want. And so here, okay, well, I'll see you later. Enjoy going to school, remember to visit the post office, right? And then here, the idea is that it's going to be the transition, right? So when we're at the end here, this will be next scene ID, right? And so that could be the post office. And so this is what I'm thinking here. I don't know what it's trying to do here. And so now what we have is our structure, but we don't have any logic coded for this, and we're not displaying it anywhere. So that'll be the next step, is implementing the actual engine. But so far, I mean, this is fine. It's kind of working, right? I mean, again, we could bring in audio if we wanted to. This is always the problem. You can always kind of like keep stretching out the requirements. I did find out that there's more or better audio generation over with Microsoft. Surprisingly, we used AWS's generation, and they have very limited voices, but there's quite a few voices on the Microsoft Azure AI platform. I actually wrote code in a separate thing here for that, but haven't integrated it yet. But I'm going to go ahead here and we'll give this a nice refresh here. And so we have some really good generation here. I'll just call this my visual novel, and we'll continue on here, and I'll see you in the next video as we work on the actual implementation of this, okay? Ciao.